Death, carnage, dismemberment, destruction, dishonor. These are some of the words that people tend to think of when we talk about war and combat. Now, unfortunately, for these returning veterans, those words become far gone, and they're faced with some bigger challenges. And most of the time, their combat and their wars start back here in America. My name is Augie Harris, and after spending 8 years in the Marine Corps, serving 2 separate combat engagements, I've realized that that there's a lot of challenges and obstacles that separating veterans and combat veterans returning home, a lot of challenges that they have to face, and I want to talk about a few of those this evening. One of the first ones I want to talk about, some would say not that important, but it leads into some of the more important things. Employment for these veterans. So many times they're not given the tools that they need to find gainful employment. They're not given the resources. You know, a lot of times these guys have been in the service for quite a number of years. They don't know how to, you know, construct a good resume. Some of the other things, dealing with the loss of purpose and isolation after leaving the military. Once these guys and girls are in the military, they're a part of an integral team. They're a part of something bigger than themselves. And when they separate and they go back home, they don't have that same sense of belonging. And a lot of times it leads down a pretty rocky path. Kind of to coattail on that, a lot of these veterans, combat veterans that are returning and veterans that are separating, they're battling PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. They're also battling depression, and they're battling something a little lesser known but very prevalent, which is called TBI, which is traumatic brain injury. And we'll talk a little more about that one later. Some of the other ones are dealing with housing and financial instability. Now, I know some people think that they are financially unstable, but a lot of these veterans, when they get out, that's it. They're done with the military and they don't have any more income, and they have to again seek gainful employment. And sometimes with the instability and the trouble finding a home, they end up homeless. As far as the veteran count in the United States right now, there are 21,973,000 veterans living in America right now. Now back to some of these issues, the post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. At least 20% of the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans have PTSD or depression. And then when you factor in that traumatic brain injury, that TBI, those numbers are going to significantly climb. 50% of the veterans that have PTSD don't seek treatment for it, and only half of the ones that actually sought treatment and were diagnosed, only half of those are getting adequate treatment. To touch back on the TBI, the traumatic brain injury, again, a little lesser known of the conditions, but 260,000 Iraq and Afghanistan vets suffer from TBI. Now, the main problem with these diagnoses and the challenges that they're facing is that these veterans, they don't know where to go for help. They don't know where to turn to, and they don't have the resources readily available to be able to get treatment for this. Now, the military and the government, they have implemented a few things. For example, my first combat tour, on the way back from Iraq, you go through this class. We took a ship over and a ship back. So on the way back from Iraq the first time, they put us through this 3-hour class that is supposed to be able to reacclimate you to living, you know, in society. So you don't beat the snot out of your wife. Just learn how to not face everything with frustration and aggression. Because a lot of the times that's how you handle things, you know, when you're in theater. Now, when that same veteran returning from combat, when they choose to separate from the military, that's a whole nother, another separate schooling that they'll have to go through. They go through a class which is called SEPS, Separations Class. A little more involved class, but I use that term loosely. It's about a 7-hour class versus a 3-hour class, where they essentially hand you a sheet of paper. It's got some websites on it and some phone numbers, how to build a resume. Here's a website to get a hold of the VA. You need to go register. After that, that's about all you get. So there's no follow-up with it. There's no way to make sure that these veterans are seeking out the treatment that they need. And a lot of times with the PTSD, with the depression, these are things that are onset after the fact, years, months after they get back from a combat zone. Or someone does feel that they need immediate attention, they can call this hotline. They'll get them in to see someone, have someone talk to them, have someone go see them if they don't have a means of transportation. So it's definitely a start. But the bottom line is that combat veterans, male, female, young, old, the veterans that are coming out, they're not getting the support that they would require upon return from a combat zone or separating from the military. We have to put new and useful programs in place to prevent the destruction of veterans. Thank you for your time. I appreciate everyone coming, and I hope you have a good night.